most boys have great men around them, but these men never talk about masculinity.
There were a lot of role models like general commanders.
You need to be in your real life as good as somebody is on the screen.
So when I'm depressed, I don't post it on social media.
Even if they know what they want to do, they will suppress their needs and the boy would lose his true identity.
Hello and welcome to What About Men, an online discussion group about hot topics running across political divides. I'm Dr. Simon Vogt, philosopher, lecturer, and director of Pathforge, a non-profit organization that delivers research-based guidance on forging meaningful and purpose-driven lives in a fair and equal world. Today, we will be talking about male role models. I think it's a pretty contentious topic. Some people are lamenting that there are no role models for men, or that they're all bad, or that we should just have human role models, not male role models, or maybe they're too male or not male enough. There's always something wrong with role models. Some of it has a tinge of the regular rhetoric. Oh, back in my day, everything was better. But I think it's also undeniable that many boys today grow up in households without a father or maybe any important men in their lives at all. And with the rise of individualism and the kind of fragmentation of families and communities, the local role models are definitely much harder to get these days. And then there's also the question of what is a good role model, of course, because maybe we have role models, just not very good ones. So if you're also a bit confused by that, today we're diving deeper into this topic. And here are the guys who will be joining me for the discussion.
So my name is Shivaksh Sharma. So I'm from India, but from past 3 years, I'm here in Germany. I'm doing my master's here. And currently, I'm just finishing my master thesis. I'll be done in 6 months. And side by side, I'm also, since from past 1 year, I've been fully devoted to self-improvement. And when I got to know the concept about masculinity and guided meditations, how to get the core into your emotions, and how to express, how to open up. So I spent like 1 or 2 hours a day to my self-improvement every day.
Wow. Impressive.
So my name is Max Schwarz. I'm a psychologist, and I'm fighting for a better collaboration between women and men. And I'm currently writing a guidebook for men to help them become happy and responsible people. Yeah, not like, I don't want to help them to be egoistic, but to be empathetic and responsible, and also be strong in a masculine way. And it is possible, although many people tell us it's not. And buy the book when it's available, but it will take a year more. Yeah, so that's basically me. I also have a podcast in German called Weiblich und Männlich. Okay, I think that's enough.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. All right. So here are the readings that I've chosen for this time. There is a text from CapEx on our young men are starved for role models. And then the quest for positive role models is quixotic and depressing. A text that is arguing that we shouldn't really be talking about role models in the way that we're talking about them at all. And then there are a couple of texts from The Guardian about how positive male role models are detoxifying the social media manosphere, and a very recent text that just came out a couple of weeks ago from a teenager who wrote about how he was lured into the manosphere, and he was kind of, he writes about how important it is to have the right role model so that something like that does not happen to young men. So heads, conservative, tails, liberal. Throwing the coin now. Tails. So we're reading the Guardian text first, and I'm starting the counter. All right, cool. Well, so we've read those two texts, and I was wondering, like, when I first came across, especially the second one, I was a bit surprised that it got published in The Guardian, because I thought that it was quite yeah, quite sympathetic to the idea that men also maybe need help sometimes, and it was really really interesting to read it. And I think that's just to kick off the discussion. So it seems like both authors describe this kind of online masculinity spaces as very powerful forces in shaping how men's, or especially young men's, identities are shaped, right? And the first one talks more explicitly about specific role models. The second one kind of talks more about the manosphere and just mentions that there's a lot of those guys who say you should do this, you should do that. So presumably role models as well. I wondered, the focus is very much in their text and generally in the discussion is very much on those online spaces. And I was really wondering what you think about this from the beginning. Like, why is it that we focus so much on online influencers and role models rather than the kind of more regular role models, like, your dad, or family, school, community groups? So that's kind of like a general thing, but also more of a question, like, from those texts, how do you see this problem that people have with the lack of role models or the wrong role models?
Yeah, I can start, or should I raise my hand?
So yeah, I didn't mention for Shivak. So we have this rule in the discussion group that I usually start a timer for 2 minutes. If you talk, then kind of try not to talk longer than 2 minutes, because then it just kind of, hoards the discussion. And I'll start those little timers in here to signify that. So go on, Max.
Yeah. So regarding your first question, why is it so much focused on the online space? So I believe that it's mainly because young people spend so much time watching their screens. So it's just big share of their reality. And the second reason might be that they don't perceive any suitable role models in their offline life, because their fathers may not be good role models, or their uncles, or the teachers. So they kind of drift into the online world. And I think and part of the second reason is, I think, because there are many amazing men out there, right? And even if I think most boys have great men around them, but these men never talk about masculinity, and they never talk about what being a man means. And I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem because these online spaces fill this void, which says, okay, I tell you exactly what masculinity is, and I tell you exactly what being a man means. Mm-hmm. And boys need that. And if mentally healthy men in their lives don't offer that, they go to entertain. I think it's as simple.
All right, thanks. Shivak, any thoughts?
You mentioned about why don't we take our fathers as role model. So personally, I feel like 1 year ago, I was really into the dark space where I didn't know who I am. I was really depressed. And from there on, I started getting self-aware about myself. And I thoroughly saw all the close people around me and how they behave and what they do in the real life. I personally feel there is something lack in my father. I'll be really honest with you, because he has stayed in his whole life in the same city, and he has not seen any what I want to say is much different kind of people, how to handle a lot of pressure, and how to talk with multiple women in a respectful manner. So I have moved to a lot of cities, but I wasn't aware of this. So I feel so. Father is something we should have a father as a role model. But if we do not have, uh, I have seen a lot of influencers online which give you a lot of information. But the core problem is people are just sitting at home and just consuming the information, but they are not doing any action in real life. That's what I feel the core problem is. If they will also provide you the steps to do, and by watching those things, a boy would feel he will have instant dopamine release, and he will feel I have done something. But in reality, he hasn't done anything. He just consumed the information.
Yeah, so there's a certain consumerism related to that. I think that's an interesting point to raise, really. That, yeah, you're just kind of like, and I think that many of those influencers, as far as I can tell, I'm giving myself a timer as well, are very much, focused on selling you a product, right? And I think this is, I found this really interesting. When I was reading those texts, I was thinking about this focus on the online thing, because when you look at the online influencers, then one thing is that they are rarely just offering some interesting thoughts, right? They're also selling you courses, or they're selling you, help groups or counseling or some sort of other, coaching, mentoring, whatever else, right? So they are doing it for a reason. They have a financial motive in this, which is hopefully not what your dad or your, uncle or any other kind of, men in your life would have. And I also think that this is not just a phenomenon related to this. It's a phenomenon about online life, which is that when we present ourselves online, we get to curate our persona, right? When you're developing these sort of online influencing videos or these sort of messages, they're carefully crafted to show you at what you consider your best, I imagine, right? And then they kind of paint this image of you as this always amazing, kind of invulnerable person who always has got it, and like, it's much easier to do that when you're at home at the camera and can take 20 takes of yourself talking and discard the bad ones, right? And you only record when you're feeling good and not when you're not feeling good and all of that. And I think it creates this, on one hand, this increased pressure that you need to be in your real life as good as somebody is on the screen. But they're obviously not as good in their whole entire life as they are on the screen. They're just cherry picking the bits that are the best, right? And on the other hand, also, I think that good role modeling also involves showing how do you deal with the moments when you're weak, the moments when you're struggling, the moments when, everything is not great. And when you're like, really trying to make it work despite the fact that the world is against you somehow, And I like when you only consume this sort of content that is very focused on people presenting themselves in their best, you never get to see them in their worst, and you don't really learn also maybe how to cope with that sort of thing. I mean, that's what I was thinking reading this. Yeah, go on, Max.
I think you brought up very important aspects. The point that the social media personality of anybody is a lie, like 100%, or everything is a lie, because everybody who is not completely insane tries to convey an image of themselves that is positive.
Yeah.
Some people are better in this, some people are worse, but all do that. So when I'm depressed, I don't post it on social media. There are some people who do that, but very few, and they quickly learn that doesn't work. Because they won't get as many likes and stuff as when they are positive. I think that's that's one very important aspect of this whole issue. I think it's very, very complex issues that we're talking about, and it's not like a Gordian knot that we can just smash with with an axe.
Sure.
It's complicated, and we have to unwindle all these strings that are intertwined, and like making us trip. So yeah, I completely agree. Can I say something to the text?
Yeah, please go on.
Yeah. So the first text, I think it was very good. I liked especially the sentence that often when there are alternative role models, they try to teach men how to treat women better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never about their own good.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea is, okay, you're a man and we're taking for granted that you're somewhat happy in your life and you can cope with your challenges. And on top of that, now we demand you to be respectful and we teach you that. But many, many boys and men, they really struggle. They're suicidal. They are virgins in their 30s. They don't have any friends and so on, health issues. And they're like, okay, I want somebody who really has empathy with me, who really understands me and doesn't like attack me when I say that I want to sleep with as many beautiful women as possible. Like many young boys have this dream to have sex with a lot of beautiful young women. And when they say that, like in a normal group, they're being attacked for that. When it's biologically completely normal, right? You have very high testosterone, and you're young, and of course you want to have sex with many young girls. Okay, if you're a homosexual young man, but you have high sex drive, and it's higher than the average sex drive of the girls. And there's biological reasons around that, and I think that these toxic influences like Andrew Tate, they accept that there are biological differences. I think that's a very crucial difference when society does not acknowledge these differences. And I think if we had like male influencers who acknowledge these biological differences and don't do it in these completely exaggerated manner as Andrew Tate, hey, look at my car, look at my perfectly shaped body and blah, blah, blah. But like normal guys like you and me, yeah, I think that would be a good progression. So I'm trying to do that, right? I try to be exact this kind of role model. So that's what I try to do all day, every day. But I don't have really an audience, right? Mm-hmm. The question is why.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, thanks for this. In there was also an interesting quote about how. Wait, what did they say? That shock factor content, which can be consumed and understood very quickly, can outperform lengthier, thought-provoking neutral content, right? I mean, it's always going to be like that in social media, right? So I think this was another really interesting thing, like, why are people looking for role models on social media and what are they going to find? Because this is not only going to be about who is out there trying to spread some messages and whose messages are good, it's also going to be about what are the algorithms pushing on you, right? Because that is kind of more, delivers quicker dopamine and makes you react, and reactions is what they're after. Yeah, interesting. I have some thoughts about this, but Shivash, do you want to chip in as well? Didn't want to hog the discussion.
Well, you didn't read the text, right? But you can share your thoughts anyway.
You can still offer some thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So recently I have been observing a lot. And I have seen, I told you I am doing masters here. And I have seen a lot of men, my friends, male friends, they are really busy just doing their work. They are not going out. That's a major problem, I feel. Even if we are students, we do not have much money, but there are a lot of social events which are free of cost. And we should go out, talk to people, increase our social skills, even if we feel judged or anything. But I am kind of person who was really introvert and shy as well. But people are consuming lot of content and just sitting at home. They're playing video games and talking about stand-up comedies and these stuffs, which I find okay. It's okay for like for your entertainment, but a man should go out. He should see different. He should talk to multiple people. Like I talk to strangers a lot, and even if I feel judged, even if I feel crappy or something, but I feel this increases your emotional intelligence, your social intelligence, and even uh, even in Germany there are a lot of. So I'm working in a company, so there are a lot of extrovert colleagues of mine who doesn't think what to say. They are just really good and and I feel one of them is really good at understanding everyone, and I feel he's a kind of role model for me. And since he is doing PhD, he doesn't have much time to talk about some personal stuff. So I just observe him how he handles pressures in meetings and talks to women, especially. And and even sometimes if I have a few minutes, I talk to him. And yeah, the main point is a man should go out. He should be social. He should be struggling. He should deliberately put himself in some not huge dangerous, but in a situation where he knows he can grow. He should grow out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. I would personally say any human should, frankly. I don't think that's a particularly only male thing, but yeah, I think that's definitely true as well. And I think that insofar as some role models online or not can, help you do this, I think that's great, right? And I think to some extent, even the most problematic role models, like they bank on this, right? They tell people, hey, stop, sitting in your room and smoking dope and not doing anything with your life, like get out and do things. And I guess I think in a way, I find it a bit sad that you need those people to tell you that, right? Like if young men especially need these sort of people to tell them, it means that something else has failed. It means that, because this should be obvious. This should be like, your dad should be telling you that from age 3. It's not like the fact that you've not had this is kind of showing that there's something problematic. I wanted to go back very quickly, Max, about what you were saying about the like that role models should also take into account the differences between men and women and all this. I think that I find this a very interesting and kind of not that obvious a thing, because on one hand, I think that there has been a lot of kind of erasing differences that have been happening for ideological or, for the reasons of trying to create a world in which women are not discriminated against because they're treated as worse for one reason or another. And there's been also a lot, and there's been a lot of that done because people would use these sort of differences to justify, well, just shitty behavior, right? As in, the typical kind of boys will be boys, or like a man has his needs or something like this, which kind of justifies, say, sexual exploitation of women by the fact that, oh yeah, men are just biologically, they just need to do that, and you can't stop it because this is how they are. And I think that, like, I understand where it's coming from, and I think insofar as this is happening is justified. And I think it's one of those things where we tend to do, like, humanity absolutely excels at finding all the wrong ways to do something before they find the right way, and doing like one extreme and then doing the other extreme, and only then at some point finally maybe zeroing in on this kind of middle ground. And I think another thing about this that is important is that it is really hard to tell for us right now what are the actual pure sex differences in terms of, say, things like sex drive that you mentioned, right? Because none of us lives outside of culture. We don't really know what it's like, right? We are all culturally determined in one way or the other. And there are no humans that live in a state of nature raised by wolves somewhere or something like this, right? We don't know. There's a really interesting book that I'm going to link to you in the chat called Sex at Dawn. If you're interested. Oh, wait, sorry, that's the wrong link. That's just the chat now. It's really interesting because they are trying to trace what it might have been like, this kind of like prehistoric. You know what? I'll just send you the title of the book. There's only one book like this. You'll find it. They're trying to trace it, and they're not that. They say it's not that obvious at all, and they give a lot of evidence for how, like, female desire would naturally be probably much higher than it is in our cultures. And I think there's really interesting research that points to the fact that women are much more likely to cave to social pressures. If you say that your God or your religion or your society requires you to be modest and to be chaste, women are much more likely to actually do this, and men are not. Men are more likely to rebel against it. And also, there's some research that shows that lack of interest in casual sex is more heritable with women than with men. So if you kind of preferentially marry chaste women, you're actually literally breeding sex drive out of women, right? Because they have children, and their children have lower sex drives because you have chosen them because they have lower sex drives, and so forth. So it's actually a really complex and interesting question, and I wouldn't be so I think it's quite simple to just say, hey, there's this difference, deal with it. It's not so clear, really. And I think also, yes, there's definitely sex differences. I'm not going to ever argue that there's no such thing. But knowing exactly what part of it is nature, what part of it is nurture, and all of this, that's friggin' impossible. And also, I think that so much of our society is kind of about correcting nature, humans are probably pretty shitty to each other purely by nature. And we, in many ways, kind of use our culture to correct for this. So I think it's a very complex issue. And I think that maybe also good role models should also kind of model how to better master our natural instincts so that we're not just slaves to our natural instincts. So that's but I think what you're saying about as well, and I just throw this because I know you probably want to reply, but you pointed out, both of you guys actually, an interesting thing, which is that the search for the role models is an expression of uncertainty or expression of not knowing what to do. And I don't remember which one of you said that, in real life, nobody tells you what's masculinity and how to be a man. So you go online because these guys do. And it's this kind of uncertainty of okay, so who am I? What am I supposed to do? And I think the fact that we have this uncertainty is probably why we also had such a strong need for role models. All right, I'll shut up now. I've been talking for way too long. Go on, Max.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Right. Mm-hmm. So she said that it's very hard to actually assess the sex differences between men and women. And it is difficult, but there are really good studies to show that there are general differences in all cultures. So we have different tools to assess that. Okay, there's ethnology, which is comparing different cultures and assess commonalities and differences, and we see that men are more aggressive than women in 98% of cultures worldwide. And they even investigated what is these tribes, nature tribes, which didn't have connection with the rest of the world. So therefore, it can't be a result from the mainstream society, right? So that's the idea that's very interesting in studying these isolated tribes. Also, we can see that testosterone levels in men are like 20% as high than in women, or at least 15% higher. I mean 20 times higher than women. So it's really a huge difference. And we can also see that if you inject people testosterone, their behavior changes. If you inject them estrogen, their behavior changes as well. So there are many studies which are not much talked about, right? Because it's very it's conflicting with the mainstream society and with the zeitgeist. But there are studies, and okay, I know this book which you talked about, Sex at Dawn, but yeah, it's like anthropological and talking about the Stone Age, and I think this all discussion that leads to nowhere. I think that's we don't have really proofs of that. We have like old bones, right, or cavings in paintings in caves, but it's really a long throw to extrapolate or infer from this little information to what is humankind today. I think that's problematic, and I don't like that. So I think we should work with the data that we have today, and there are many data. So we have psychological data who show that men are more object orientated than women, or object focused, and women are more socially focused than men. And also you find that in almost every culture of the world. So why is that? You find that men have a high sex drive. They masturbate more often. They think more often about sex. They also think more often about having sex with different people, promiscuity. You find that in almost every culture of the world. So how can that be if that's not biological? Like, it's not very probable, right? And I don't say that all men are like this, that all men are crazy for sex. No. So they are feminine men, and on the other side, they're masculine women, and that's amazing. Like, think about our ex-chancellor, Angela Merkel. She did like a pretty decent job. I think she wasn't amazing, but she was not like, she was okay, right? And I think she's happy with being a masculine woman. So why should I say, or anybody say, that she lives like on the wrong way? So that would be ridiculous. But at the same time, I think we should acknowledge these average differences or mean differences between men and women, because our policies should be evidence-based. And if there is biological and ethnological and psychological and sociological evidence of sex differences, and if you don't address that, people will suffer. And not only men, also the women. We don't hear you. We don't hear you. Simon, I can't hear you.
Can't hear
Yeah,
you.
thanks. I had the microphone muted. Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting topic. I feel like we're straying from the topic of role models right now, but you know what? I will actually organize a whole separate discussion group on sex and gender differences, because I think this is clearly something I would feel like I would need to prepare for this discussion a bit better as well. Because I think that there is a big discussion in there about what is the society that we have, what is natural, what is cultural, and what is the society that we want to have. You know, like, the fact that something is natural doesn't mean that it's good, right? I mean, poisons are natural, rape is natural, a lot of things are natural, killing is natural, doesn't mean that they're good, and doesn't mean that we shouldn't do something about it. So I think there is a big discussion in that, and let's organize a separate session about this. I think it would be really cool to pursue it separately. But let's go back to the role models right now. I'm curious, like, just coming back to this topic of the fact that people are looking for the role models, and there's so much talk of the role models just being this kind of symptom of people being lost, or like boys and young men especially being lost, because like, well, if you weren't, you wouldn't need someone to tell you where you are, right? And that's what those role models are meant to somehow do. And I'm curious what you guys think about like whose job should it be to make sure that men are not lost, because maybe it's not Andrew Tate's job. Shivash, do you have any thoughts?
I can. Well, I wanted to. I don't know how your name is pronounced. Sorry. The guy from India.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So I think. So I would share. What is this personal story?
Mm-hmm.
An anecdote is the word. Yeah, an anecdote with you. So like before you joined, Shivash, sorry, Simon and me talked about the Bundesforum für Männer, which is a German NGO trying to help men. Let's frame it that way. They try to help men, but I don't think they really do. And so they made a big conference this summer that I attended, and there was a woman from the I think it was Ministry for Education or something. Like she was part of the government or from the state at least. I don't know which party she was. Maybe she was in the opposition as well. I don't know. But she was working in the ministry and she was very educated. So I think she had like a leading position. So there was a workshop and it was exactly about this topic, role models and what a good man, what a bad man. And I made my position very clear. And as expected, everybody hated me, right? Because I was a like toxic man in the group, right? And after this workshop, like I approached this woman and of course she was already kind of pissed off of me. But I was okay. I really tried to be very friendly with her. And I said, okay, it's interesting that you're working there, blah, blah. And I tried to, we had a little discussion and interestingly, like it sums up, like her position was that we don't have to foster healthy masculinity in boys because she thinks that masculinity emerges by itself, right? So it's something that boys, like it comes up like in a void, like unvermeidlich. What is the German English word? It can't be avoided in a way that can be avoided. And our responsibility as society is to pressure it down so it doesn't become excessive, right? So that was her idea. Her idea was that boys will thrive anyways. Yeah, because they are boys. Boys are strong. Boys know what they need, and so forth. And we as a society have to push this masculinity down so it doesn't become excessive. And that was very interesting because she didn't understand that how insecure many boys actually are, and that many boys don't dare anymore to show any signs of masculinity or what they believe masculinity is, right? Because often they don't have any idea. And I think it was so symptomatic. And I thought, Jesus, I was really depressed after talking to this lady because I understood that the problem is really, really, really deep. Because she didn't have any, she didn't believe in biological differences. She didn't have any empathy with boys. She just perceived the boys as a problem for girls. And yeah, I was really, really depressed after talking to her.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Shivash, any thoughts?
So coming to your question, which you asked, so who is responsible for choosing our role models? I feel I haven't researched a lot, but I feel a guy should first be responsible himself. He should uh, be disciplined enough. And most of the time, I have seen boys do not know what is their purpose, and they're really I don't know the English word. They're just going everywhere and they don't know what to do, how to talk.
Confused. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your mission in life.
Yeah, exactly. So which comes by trying different things and by getting to know yourself. And when you get to know yourself, like doing journaling or going about the day, why did I do this stuff? If you have done something really bad and you are guilty about it, when you do journaling and you get to know what was the emotions, why did I do that? I'm not like that. So it's like you are questioning yourself, which actually means you are reparenting yourself. So even if you are not finding any role models, and I feel a lot of people don't know how to find a role model because they don't know themselves. How do you expect them to find a role model if they don't know themselves? Like I personally like uh, psychology and calisthenics and the spirituality, and I find I look for the people while going out who aligns to my thoughts and who has better knowledge than me and is really good at it. So I find I keep those people closer to me, even if they are really busy. But I feel the first responsibility is ourselves. We should be self-aware this much that we know what we should do.
Yeah, I think knowing yourself is like the base of anything. But I also feel like it's not that easy at all. And sometimes it's somebody from the outside who can see you better than you can see yourself, I think. I mean, otherwise people wouldn't need to go to therapy, right? If it was so easy to figure it out for yourself. Yeah, I mean, I would very much like to encourage anyone to spend a lot of time on trying to get to know themselves. And I think it's a never-ending journey as well, because I'm actually restarting this journey for myself right now, because I feel like I'm kind of entering a new stage of my own life, and I need to reflect on who do I want to be again, and who am I, and what do I want to, how I want to show up, to live intentionally and all of this. But this is not an easy process. And I can totally see how a lot of people would be confused and could benefit from some sort of guidance when it comes to this. Yeah. No, thanks very much for sharing. And let's keep discussing after we read the next text. When looking for text, I was quite struck by how you can clearly tell from what perspective those texts are written in, like the language and the background assumptions and all of that. But actually, they agree on a lot. It seems like they are actually seeing like the same problem. To me, at least, it seemed like they see the same problem, and they actually are quite in agreement that, society has failed to provide young men with something, and then they are looking for those role models, and they're probably looking for them in the wrong places. And there's like, all this host of reasons for it. And maybe they kind of, they differ a little bit in what they would prescribe, and maybe how they, definitely the language that they use, right? But I thought that it was really quite interesting in the context of those texts specifically, just how much they actually agreed between the left and right. And I think it's quite instructive to read these things in this context. I'm really happy to be able to provide this sort of forum, because I think that sometimes we forget that the people on the other side are actually not that different, right? They actually think quite similarly, and maybe we differ in some details, but there's quite a lot of overlap in there. So that was kind of like a more general overall reflection on that. But just to kick us off, I think what was interesting about those texts is that they kind of, they both argue that society has kind of failed to provide young men with credible role models. But there's then kind of like a difference in, okay, so what is the solution to this? And it seems like there is a lack of agreement on whether we should be looking for kind of these perfect role models, or is that even unrealistic and counterproductive? Like, where should they be even? The previous texts were very much looking at online models. And then here it's kind of not very clear if it should be online, or maybe the other text, the second text obviously argues that it should not, right? That it should be the man in your life. And very unclear how you actually get them, right? I mean, how do you convince all of the fathers in the country to be more present and better role models? So I was really curious how you see the difference in how do they diagnose the problem and what solutions they offer. Go on, Max.
So, it's very interesting that, the commonalities and also the differences. And I think as a commonality is that they say that there's a lack of role models, or that the available role models are not being used enough, right? Because of everything moving into the online space. This is like the second article saying that if you only had more opportunities for offline meetings, then the boys would meet their amazing uncles who would tell them about being a good man. And I don't really agree on that. I think so. If boys would engage more in the offline world, it would help a little bit. But I think the big problem is that masculinity is always linked to the term toxic. So therefore, boys think that's toxic. I read like an article the other day that a current poll in the UK shows that 75% of schoolboys don't know what masculinity is, but they know that it's toxic. So that's ridiculous, right? They don't know what it is, but it's bad. So it's kind of bizarre situation. And so I don't really agree on that. We only have to get the boys out of the man's cave. Yeah. Although it's important. Yeah. But just you said, sorry, Shikbash, I always say your name bad, but I totally agree on you that the men have to get outside to crave the social skills and to experience the real world, not only the screens. I totally agree, but it won't solve everything. And so I think so we need honest talks about the positive sides of masculinity in men, and also have evidence-based conversations about the theory of patriarchy. So I tell it theory because I don't believe that Germany has a patriarchy right now. I think it's a conspiracy theory. And I think we need serious evidence proving that women are like suppressed or structurally like disadvantaged, something like that. Like they just say the stuff, but we created science for a reason, right? And you can measure the oppression, but they think, okay, we don't need any evidence. It's so obvious. But this is very ideological, and I think that's a problem. So I think so. There are amazing men out there. Like think Barack Obama. I think we all agree that Barack Obama is an amazing man. Why doesn't he give a talk about what being a great man is? Why doesn't he do that? I tell you why. Because he doesn't want to acknowledge that there's a difference between men and women. Because he's in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is very woke, and wokeness also implies that you negate the difference between men and women. So therefore, Barack Obama would give a talk about what it means to be a good human, but he would never give a talk about what it means to be a good man. And I think that's a problem, because he would be a good role model, and we can't use him as a role model, because he doesn't offer himself as a role model. And I think that's really symptomatic of the situation.
Why should young men not aspire to just be good humans then?
Sorry, was it?
I'm curious then. So I don't know about Barack Obama giving or not giving this talk. I don't know what his reasons would be.
He didn't.
So I think
He
that
never did that.
yeah, of course, but we don't really know why, right? I mean, I don't know if you've spoken to him personally and he told you that, but
No, okay, it's just my assumptions, but I think I have good reasons for these assumptions.
okay, well, I mean, but yeah, I feel like this is getting us again a little bit. No, maybe it's not getting us off topic. Let's stay on this. I'm curious about this as well because I'm not sure what is the importance or the weight of modeling being a good man versus modeling being a good human. Like, I think that all boys and all men should aspire to be good humans, right? And that's and I understand that depending on your commitment to, you know, how natural gender or sex differences are and how important they are and stuff like that, you will be potentially more or less committed to this being an important thing. But I think that regardless, like even if you think that it's important that they're good men, it's still important that they're good humans, right? So I'm not that clear that there is. It's not that there is no need to model what a good man is, but I don't think that this is all, right? I think what a good life is, what a good person is, what a good uncle, father, bicycle repairman is, you know, like modeling all of these things, what a good member of the family is, and all of that. So I think that it's more to role models than just modeling masculinity in this respect. But Shivash, maybe you had some thoughts as well.
In one of the article, there was this line: "Boys need real guidance, purpose, challenge, structure, and more aspiration role models, especially from the school days," which I find really amazing. And so, since I'm from India, and I agree with the point Max made, there is no patriarchy here in Germany because I have lived in both countries, and I've seen few families here in Germany as well. So there is no patriarchy, I would say. But in India, patriarchy is, I mean, it's a major issue. And what I feel is there's this article where there's this fact that a child learns subconsciously from his father till the age, from father and mother, basically parents, till the age of 6. But he or she can learn afterwards as well. But the point I'm about to make is the schools should take responsibility of this, and the school headmaster or principal, they should actually devote some lecture, or they should call role models. For example, if I studied my school, the school name was Army Public School. So there were a lot of role models like general commanders who used to come, and they used to give speech, not for the masculinity, but in general, how to be a good human. But this should be started. This should start from the childhood, from the schools itself, because in school, I've seen boys or girls, they are treated as same. There is no they are not treated as a different biological being, and there should be some separate lecture, especially for the men, how to behave with the woman, how to behave in the real world. That's what I think.
I think it's really interesting to what extent it's so. This is something that I found interesting between what you're saying and the text, because in the second text, especially the one arguing against role models, the guy was just like, we should be telling boys less about what masculinity is meant to be and help them repair their bikes, and be there with them when they need it, and kind of like model it not by by like offering this theory, you know, like this is how I will lecture you about how you're meant to behave, but more just like, well, just behaving that way around them so that they see what it looks like, right? And I think that's an interesting thing as well, because I'm not sure maybe we need both, right? Maybe it's important to have this and that. But I found it interesting that you picked up on this. And I also found it interesting that you picked up on this quote, because I actually had the same one. And this is actually something that I do disagree with. Because the author says, like, I have this quote in here as well: boys are not girls. They don't need more safe spaces to emote. They need real guidance, purpose, challenge, structure, and more aspirational role models in schools and in the media. And I was just like, but why can't we have both? I don't understand. Like, this is the part where I'm like, I don't know if we need these sort of strong, gender divisions, because I feel like I didn't have enough safe spaces to emote when I was a kid. Like, I'm discovering right now, as I mentioned, I'm doing some more like work on myself right now. And it has to do a lot with my capacity to, for example, show my anger in a way that is safe and is not turning into violence, but is at the same time not, requiring me to bottle up feelings that I have and I think are quite important. And, maybe there is a reason why I have them, because something is really wrong, right? And like, I never learned to do that properly, partially because I didn't have safe spaces to emote. I'm like, these sort of sentences I do find problematic, and there's kind of like, boys are like this, girls are like this, boys need this, girls need this. I'm just like, yes, but at the same time, and I'm like, I'm the last person to deny that there are like, gender or cultural or natural differences, but they're statistical. They're like, here is a distribution curve for men, here's a distribution curve for women. There's a lot of overlap between them. There is a difference, but it's a statistical difference. And it doesn't mean that like it's a black and white thing in which boys need this, girls need that. And I think that, we all need most of those things. We might need them in slightly different quantities. But I would very much like to see role models and spaces for men also, or for boys, in which they're not only taught how to, protect and provide or whatever else, but also how to show up emotionally, for example, and all of those other things that I think, like, I've not been taught. I've not had a good role model that would show me how to, I recently, sorry, this is going to go a little bit personal. My grandfather died recently. He passed away just a few weeks ago. And I went to see my family, of course. And just to see how different people in the family were processing grief was very instructive. And seeing how the various men in my family really struggled with this. And I was actually one of the people who could express it more than most people. And I think it's a real shame that, that, like, I could see that they wanted to, they just don't know how, And I don't know if you had these sort of situations in your life and whatever emotions they are that you want to express better in all of this. But yeah, I think it's a shame that we lived in a culture which kind of makes this division, in which, people say things like boys don't need a safe spaces to emote. It's like, yeah, I think they do. So it's one of those situations in which I would say that it's more important to role model being a good human and not focusing so much on the differences, but kind of focus on, the things that, and it's not to pretend that there are no differences. There's a difference between that, right? But to like focus on being a good human first as well. Anyway, that's my 2 pence. Go on, Max.
Well, I think that what you just said, that there's a big overlap of the distribution curves of traits between men and women. Yeah, of course, that's true.
Yeah.
And as I said before, there are masculine women and feminine men, and that's cool as long as they are happy with it and their social circle is too. That's amazing, right? But the point is that many boys struggle with not having positive role models. And well, you just said something very interesting, Simon. You said, okay, so you liked the second text because it says, yeah, so why do we even need to talk about role models? Why just men can behave in a positive way and boys observe that and then take that up through model learning. Yeah, so it's called model learning when you learn something through observation. Yeah, of course, that's a very good approach. But the point is, I think the problem is that society uses role models all the time, male role models, but negative role models. So they're always talking about how awful Antitate is, right? So that's like a negative role model. So they know exactly what they shouldn't do. But when you're using negative role models, so when you say what you don't want, you also have to say what you do want. So otherwise, the boys will be overwhelmed because they I know exactly the list of things that I should do or say, but there's no list of things that I should say. So they are completely lost. And I think that's a point. So either we decide as a society to talk about role models, then we should talk also about positive role models, or we decide to not talk about role models and let's not talk about Antitate neither, right? But then it has to be both sides, right? So if not, it's not coherent, right? So and you said something else. You said, yeah, some of your relatives didn't show their grief. And it's a shame, just if I got you right, men grieve differently than women on average, right? And I think it's a problem to pathologize male patterns of behavior or emotions or thinking. It sounded a little bit like that. Maybe the way these male relatives of yours processed their grief was exactly the perfect way for them, right? And your way is different. You talked about it.
I'm sure that there are cases like this, but this was not one of them because they literally came to me and spoke to me about how they were not able to do what I was doing, right? So, I mean,
okay, so they thought that
like, I'm sure there are other cases that
okay
as well.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for chipping in. Shivash, any thoughts?
I mean, not really right now. You can go ahead, any of you.
Yeah. Sorry, now that I started thinking about my grandfather and it threw me, I had something to say to your first point, Max. Can you just quickly remind me what your...
Yeah, so my first point was...
Oh, sorry, yes, I remember, about the need for positive rather than just negative role models. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so exactly.
I wholeheartedly and fully agree with the need for, like, that it is really counterproductive to keep telling men and boys how not to be without at the same time telling them how to be. Because then, you just create this vacuum and massive confusion about, like, well, I know exactly everything that is wrong with me, but I don't know how to make it better, right? Or what to do with it. So with this, I am like 100% on board with, and I think that this is actually really changing in the social discourse that I see. And I think that the dominant discourse was very focused on criticizing various toxic, kind of traits and all of this. And to the exclusion of actually saying, okay, there's actually some good things about masculinity as well. And here they are and how to do them. But I actually see that this is shifting right now. And the fact that Guardian was publishing those articles is a really good, symptom of that, I think. So I think that society is kind of noticing this. And I really liked, was it in one of the text as well. What was it? Yeah, that basically, on one hand, we're kind of neglecting all of those boys and men, but on the other hand, we need to give them something positive. And now I think the question is, well, how do we do that, right? Because obviously, like many of those fathers, uncles, and whatever other people who are in those boys' lives, I mean, they might not know themselves, right? So how are they meant to be the positive role models? And yeah, I'm really just curious how, like, what this positivity, where is meant to come from then, and who's meant to know what it looks like? Because I think this is one kind of core or like common difference that gets often pointed out between the more conservative or more progressive perspective, which is that progressives tend to be much more likely to accept or focus on the fact that, or like the perspective that there is no one right answer to things. And the answer to most things is, it depends. So that when you ask them, hey, what's the right way to be a man? They won't have one quick answer that fits on a page, right? They will go like, well, you need to read those 3 books on, critical something. And then you might start getting some understanding of it, but you'll probably end up with more questions than answers. Whereas the kind of influencers who succeed right now, and most of them are conservative, are the people who just go like, no, you can package it all in 12 rules for life, right? Or you can package it all in like a page or like in a TikTok video or whatever else. And I think that there is this difference in which when you have this approach in which you go like, you're happy to give simple answers, even though the problem is not simple. The problem is actually really complex. Then like you are, given how our algorithms work and all of that, you're more likely to get attention, right? Because this is what gets pushed on people. But also humans are humans. Human like simple, quick fixes, right? I mean, we wouldn't have an obesity problem if people didn't prefer a solution that says, just take this pill rather than you need to work out every single day and eat healthily, right? I mean, people don't like difficult solutions. They like simple solutions. So yeah, I wonder to what extent it is also a problem of. So you asked, why am I saying that? Because you asked, why is it that Barack Obama will not come out and say what it is like to be a good man? I don't think that he would. Like, I think that he would take like a 12-hour lecture to start answering this question, right? And nobody would watch it. So I worry sometimes that, yeah, it might also be how likely are people to listen to a complex answer, versus a simple answer. Go for it, Max.
So I totally agree that people are quite cognitively lazy, and therefore prefer these easy messages. And this gives conservatives an advantage because they have very clear solutions. Whereas the leftists are right, okay, it depends, and okay, here, I give you a lecture for an hour, sit down, and people just won't do it. I agree. And also, often I am misunderstood because people think, okay, Max has a very simple model of gender differences, and he thinks, okay, men are like this, women are like this. No, like actually you can talk, I think you can have a conversation with me for 3 whole days, and we will not end up with me talking about what I know about these topics, and it's very complex. So and I think, but you said something interesting before, Simon, which was there's no gender separation needed, and no need to force to boys to do certain activities and girls to do certain activities based on their sex. Did I get you right?
I don't remember talking about that specifically, but why I mean, I think that everything should be open to anyone, whatever they want to do. I don't think there's any point forcing anyone to do any of this particularly, but at the same time,
Yeah.
go on. But what do you want to say? Maybe I can agree or disagree.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that it's would not be a good option to force boys to do like boy-like activities in school and girls to do girl-like activities in school. But it should be offer-based, not force-based.
Mhm.
For example, I think that martial arts class would be very helpful for boys. Even more if there's male instructor holding a positive model of masculinity and with a class exclusively with males, right? And this should be offer based, right? And there could be also a class which is genders mixed with boys and girls participating and a teacher of whatever gender, and also a class with a with a female instructor holding a positive view of femininity, and only girls, right? So the kids could choose. So I want to be only with my own sex, or I want to be with in a mixed class, and they can choose, right? And I think that's important. And I think because of these differences of the distribution curves, many boys who have like more masculine traits biologically and genetically will choose to be in the male only class, whereas the more androgynous boys will rather choose the mixed sex class. And then I think that would be amazing, because everybody would get what he needs, right? So the masculine boys would get the masculine activity, and the not so masculine boys would get less masculine activity, or they can also have painting class, right? So they don't have to do martial arts. There should also be painting or some other feminine stuff. And then, but there should be offers like that. The problem is that a boy who has this desire to do something masculine, and it's not conscious. It's important to point that out. It's not conscious that it's masculine, that it's just emerging from itself. And if there's an offer for masculine activity, they will just feel that they want to do it, right? And if there would be these martial arts classes, I think the violence in schools worldwide would drop dramatically. I'm totally convinced that martial arts classes would help so much, and I'm really angry that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, and some feminists even say, okay, we don't want boys and men to do martial arts, because then when they do that, they will be even more dangerous to us, right? Like a man who does kung fu, like he can rape me even better because I'm even more scared than before, right? So and it's completely crazy, this logic.
So I'm surprised. I don't know any. My impression is the main reason why there are no martial arts classes in schools is because there is no money for schools, and not because like feminists don't allow it to happen, right? So, and as far as I understand, long before feminism was in strength, there were still no martial arts classes in schools. So I don't know if this is the reason, and I'm sure that some feminists would say something like that, but I think that it's. Yeah, I don't want to. I think it's important that we don't scapegoat, something that like maybe is not really the scapegoat.
What is that?
Scapegoat is like you find yourself someone to blame for something, even though they're not really guilty of it. Like the way I know the Jews are blamed for the evils of the world or something like that, right? So I think it's but I mean, I think that, yeah, finding, things that would allow for good release of aggression or like adrenaline, whatever else, fantastic. I think that you're a little bit idealistic with this though, because those things don't exist in the vacuum. And the boys who would be choosing those or those classes and the girls that will be choosing these or those classes would be subject to judgment of their peers in the class, They would be just subject to bullying by others who say like, oh, you've chosen the wrong thing or whatever. So I think that like saying that you can just offer this and everyone will choose what they really are drawn to is a bit idealistic, because they will not choose what they're really drawn to. They will choose what their friends will not bully them for, and that sort of thing. So I think, and there's like a lot of other things involved in this. So I think that like I would like to live in a world in which everyone chooses things purely based on what's good for them. And, to think that 8 or 9 or 10-year-old kids even know what's good for them. I think that's, yeah, I think I will give the progressive answer. It's more complicated than that. Yeah. But anyway, Shivak, would you like to chip in as well? Because I know that we've been kind of bouncing back and forth, but don't want to cut you off.
Yeah. With I just want to join this in the same argument. Yes, you mentioned about if boys get any sports or any feminine activity to choose in a school. I feel even if they don't have their own opinion, they would go home and they would ask their parents also, because at that age, boy or even girl are more prone to have approval from their parents. So consciously they are not choosing what they want to choose. And you also mentioned this point. They will choose something. The boys will choose something which, so that they can't be bullied from other friends. That's also kind of getting approval from their friends. And that's what I mean. They don't know themselves, but even if they know what they want to do, they will suppress their wants and needs, and which is kind of bad. And he would the boy would lose his true identity. And uh, like at the end, he would if he would not be able to make decision afterwards, not just for this particular point, but if something ahead comes in his life, he wouldn't be able to make the choice what he wants to. Because he has learned this, taking approval or from friends or from parents.
Yeah, I think that's a common problem. I definitely struggle with that in my life as well. Like knowing what it is that I want myself versus, what do I get approval for? That's an interesting point as well. And I think that, yeah, assuming that people are able to do that is a dangerous assumption. And I think that, we are all of us under so many social pressures to perform a role and to fit into a certain mold that society has prepared for us. And there is, strong incentives in the form of social acceptance or lack of acceptance that, and, I mean, people pleasing is like one of the, big things that so many people struggle with. So yeah, just assuming that people would actually choose what they themselves want for themselves, and especially kids, or that they even know what they want. That's a big assumption, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. Like, people go around asking 3-year-old boys, what you want to do when you're grown up, right? And boys say stuff like, hey, I'm going to be a firefighter, or I'm going to be a YouTuber. Now they say, everybody says, I'm going to be a YouTuber, I'm going to be an influencer, right? Because they consume the stuff all the time, and they think that's a peak of human existence. And so therefore, I said before that it should be offer based, because you can offer young people activities. It can be in schools. It can be also in this like civic organizations, like associations and stuff, who offer offer activities, and then the young people, they can get into resonance with these offers and feel if it's good, if they think it's good for them or not. And of course, there are social influences. I mean, humans are social beings. Like we would just die if we wouldn't have other people, right? I mean, we don't have big claws to kill prey, and we don't have a fur to protect us from the cold. So we are 100% dependent on other humans, and therefore it would be naive to think that there's something like, the real you that is pure and knows exactly what he or she wants, and we just have to get rid of the social pressure so you get to your real meaning. No, like we are social beings, and these social roles that we are in, that we are born into, also, they give us meaning, right? Because all these social roles, they offer us meaning. But there's somebody who says, do that or don't do that. And if you act accordingly, like they want, they will appreciate you in some form. And of course, it's your decision, because you are meant to be autonomous. It's your decision to follow the other persons or not. But that's a thing that people learn when they are old. I mean, I'm 43 now. I'm very good at that. I'm not afraid anymore to contradict anybody. But we're talking about teenagers.
Yeah.
They can't do that, and they need some offers. And I think that the solution is offering them different sorts of activities, and also, importantly, with just one sex, because some people need that. And to talk about the other text, the first text, the box, or the what was it? The text which was kind of not the critic, the other one, the cap X text. Yeah. So it says the cap X text says that so we tell the boys that they should open themselves and talk about their emotions and their fears and everything. But then when they open up, we don't help them, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's exactly the point. And because, like you, Simon, you said that the leftists, they tend to say, oh, there are no simple answers. It depends. Well, I have to contradict you on that point, because the left says, hey, the boys just have to become more empathetic, more soft, more social, and everything will be better. So it's a very simple solution they're suggesting, right? And it's not as easy, because when you're a boy and you open up about your anxiety, like, oh, I'm afraid that I won't ever have sex because I'm so ugly. Like, imagine saying this in front of the whole class with your crush next to you. Like, this is crazy. Like the boy would be stupid to do that. So we need safe spaces for boys where they only among boys.
That is why I lead men's groups as well. Absolutely.
And a strong man. And a strong, let me finish the sentence. With a strong, positive man, a mature man, safe spaces. Yeah, so we need that. And as long as we don't recognize sex differences, we won't get to that point that we have these gender exclusive spaces for boys.
Yeah, I would agree with this one, and this is why I disagreed with this text on, boys are not girls. They don't need safe spaces to emote, which in the text was because I think they do, absolutely. And I myself run men's groups, right? So, well, that is exactly a safe space where I meet up with my friends and we just talk about our problems, frankly. I think it's really important that we do things like that. So, yeah, let's do a whole other discussion group on the topic of those differences, because this topic keeps coming back, and I feel like we've not really done it justice, and there is a lot of things to clarify in that. And as amazing as this discussion is and fruitful, I also need to sleep at some point. So
That's not very masculine, Simon.
I know. So, well, I embrace the fact that I need to sleep and screw masculinity, balls if they say otherwise. So yeah, thank you very much for a very fruitful discussion today, guys. That was really interesting and fun. So if you want to follow up with this in any way, here is sorry, I'll get to the right slide. Here are some details about my organization and what I do. If you want to look up Pathforge, you can check it out on my website. Send me an email, look me up on the various socials. This thing will be put into a video on YouTube very soon. And for now, I would like to thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts and for your respectful discussion. This was really fun and interesting. And I hope to see you again in the next editions of What About Then?
Yeah, usually I do not participate in discussions and arguments, but I mean, it was really good. Can share our thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.